question's for Matt. I was just wondering, of the creatures that you've made, which one's your favorite that you've...
I really don't know. I've just done so many of them, and I don't know.
Choose between your children, it's okay.
I don't know, it's like choosing between children. The Asura were fun. I actually do take a lot of ownership of the Asura. I mean, even though a lot of it was not necessarily, I was part of a chain of ideas that led to the Asura, but I did draw the final one that became him. And I do like the architecture that I created for them too. They're kind of my baby. So the whole package, the architecture, Asura, their whole culture, I've kind of nurtured that entire cohesive unit, and I'm really proud of that.
They are too. Okay. Next question from me, actually. What is one of the most challenging parts of doing concept art for games? And this is for everyone up on stage.
I think the most challenging part about doing concept art for games is consistently trying to come up with a good idea that's not too stupid. Because Guild Wars is it's a fantasy game. It's not quite the most traditional fantasy game out there. I mean, but it's not sci-fi. So trying to get these prompts and like, draw an orc or draw a troll. Trying to come up with an idea that's not like the typical orc or the typical troll. It's kind of hard because there's already a perception of what a orc or what a troll is. So trying to come up with something that has the same level of impact to the player that sees something and think, that fulfills the same role as an orc, but making it cool with edge and with this undefinable Guild Wars quality that we've tried to perfect and cultivate within our company. I think that's a daily challenge for us, to keep on the ball, to keep pushing ourselves to make something better and better, so that people can keep on looking at it and be still stunned at whatever we put out.
A lot of what I do is kind of the really challenging sort of the tricky situations, things that require very specific designs and very specific solutions for complex problems that involve stylization and gameplay and just the overall look of the game. So there's a lot of really architectural interiors especially. Those need to feel real. They need to feel like lived-in architecture, but they also need to accommodate just basic gameplay mechanics and just engine mechanics like camera clearance or just paths through to lead, as part of the game. So there are a lot of really complex problems that are being approached in every single concept piece. It's not just draw a pretty picture and they make it. There's very specific demands for each one of them. And sometimes it can be difficult kind of reining those in. It's like herding cats.
Yeah, I'd have to say that that's probably similar in some of the troubles with drawing characters is trying to come up with something absolutely cool and wonderful within the constraints that we have. Because think about it. All right, you first have to have a specific race. It's probably going to have a cultural influence for a location. It's probably going to have a level influence. So now you have a race that has this sort of culture with this sort of importance level. On top of that, it's going to have the seams, because these character designs, of course, you can swap out armor parts. So you always have a seam here on your wrist. You always have one on waist and so forth. That shape now has to convey that sort of cultural level importance race and work with every other armor piece that's ever been made. It also has to be dyeable. And so whatever, breakup of those shapes for dyeable also has to look good. And then on top of that, try to do something that's never been seen before and absolutely new. And then on top of that, oh yes, it has to be the latest fashion because we've seen all of that before. So, and you're inventing new designs off on top of that. So once you get to the sort of big juggling act at the very end of trying to come up with something nobody's ever seen before, it's the coolest, most badass thing that you've ever had to begin with, you know. It still fits the location, it fits the race, it fits the importance level. It works with everything else in the game, and it's dyeable. Oh, and you know, designing with all of those kind of restrictions on it, and still coming up with something that people want to play the game for. That's always been sort of the challenge in our room, and it's a moving target. And so we always try our best to come up with something that the players will enjoy. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is just doing the job. It's the challenge.
Can you talk about some of the differences, if any, like in your approach to doing art for GW1 versus doing art for Guild Wars 2?
All the new things that we can't talk about. But the also difference is well, now we have normal maps on our characters as well, and so I don't think that's any big secret at this point. We've talked about it before. I know we have. Anyway, and so the big thing is that we're creating high-res sort of, you know, images because we have access to more resolution on our characters now, and so we're finally able to draw some of the details that you guys never saw before. We did put it in there. It just, by the time it was rendered into the game and brought down to resolution, it just wasn't necessarily apparent when your character's this big on the screen. And so I would say that the difference is now is that we have all access to kinds of all new bells and whistles. And so trying to put that on the character and really making it work together now with all of the materials that we have. It's a really cool thing, and it's nice to be able to have access to all of those details and to be creative with new tools that we haven't had before. But yeah, it's like I said, it's all the same thing. It's just more plates to spin.
I think probably the biggest difference between Guild Wars 2 and I didn't work on the original Guild Wars 1. I started on about towards the tail end of Factions. So basically the scale of the game that we're working on, this is so much bigger than any of the things we've done before. And just trying to maintain consistency from one end of the project to the other, while not necessarily keep dumbing it down, or, you know, because, you know, artists develop as they work. And this is like an appreciable chunk of my artistic career that this one game is occupying. So just trying to make sure that the whole time has been up to par. So there's a lot more richness to to Guild Wars 2, and so there's a lot more, you know, like Kristen was saying, a lot of detail, a lot of very fine scale detail, but a lot of opportunity for overworking it. So you know, there's economy involved, but so just probably a little more effort in filling up the space is probably the most pronounced difference. But yeah.
Basically, the main difference between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 is that we have to get a lot better for Guild Wars 2 this time.